Alhamdulillah wa salatu wa salam ala Rasulillah wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa man wala wa ba'd. Okay, continuing with Usool Al-Fiqh, Nuzum Al-Waraqat of Al-Imarati from Jawaini. We spoke about last lesson ignorance and what is ignorance. And we said the ignorance is of two types: simple ignorance and compound ignorance or double ignorance. What was the difference between simple ignorance and compound ignorance?
Simple ignorance is you don't know.
Okay. Simple ignorance, you just don't know something. That's just simple ignorance. What's compound ignorance then? You don't know that you don't know. That's what compound ignorance is, meaning you know something incorrectly. But you don't know that what you know is incorrect. Okay? So that's double ignorance. And we mentioned, Ibn al-Qayyim said, not knowing is a musibah. But not knowing that you don't know is worse. It's worse than just not knowing. Okay. Now the Shaykh in the poem will move on to knowledge. وَالْعِلْمُ إِمَّا بِاضْطِرَارٍ يَحْصُلُ أو باكتساب حاصل فالأول كالمستفاد بالحواس الخمس بالشم أو بالذوق أو باللمس والسمع والإبصار ثم التالي ما كان موقوفا على الاستدلال. So he said, even knowledge, we can break it up into two different categories. Yes, knowledge بالضرار, knowledge which is known without having to use your brain for it, or use thinking about it to know it. It's necessary knowledge. Knowledge by necessity. You just know it. You don't have to think about it, you just know it. Yes? Like fire is hot. Yes? The sun is there. There is a sun. You see it. These things that you don't have to prove them. You just know them by necessity. Yes? Like from them is language. Language is known by necessity. Yes? You, even though it's a theory, it hasn't been proven totally, but there's lots of proof. You innately know language. As soon as you're born, or even before you're born, you have the knowledge of language in you. But you just need to fix the grammar and learn some words. This is called universal grammar. The linguists talk about this. Chomsky mentions it. It's his theory, but it seems to make sense. Because a child doesn't get, when a child is born and hears people speaking, and then when the child produces language, it's more complex than the language it hears. And the input it gets from outside is not as complex as the output it produces. Especially when the child gets to about 3 or 4. It can produce output, language from itself, that is more complex than anything it's heard of. Yes? Which shows there's something innate in language that the child already knows. Yes? And all the child needs to learn is how is the grammar. Is it this way or that way? There's only basically in all the grammars of the languages, I only know this because I studied it in linguistics. All languages have one or the other type of grammar. Yes? There's no third or fourth. It's just this way or that way. And they describe it as a switch. So the child needs to know which side the switch is. So it listens to the input from the parents or from the surrounding, and automatically the brain puts the switch, which way the grammar will be. And then learns some words and khalas, starts talking. Okay? But that is innate knowledge. Again, it's ittirari because it doesn't use anything, it doesn't need a proof, it just knows it straight. So this is al-ilm al-ittirari, or ilm al-dhururi. Ittirar or dhururi. Then there is knowledge which has to be learnt, or they call it iktisab, you have to gain it. Iktisab means to gain. Become kasb. Yes? Kasb is to earn something. Mimma kasabat aydihim, that which their hands have earned. Yes? Iktisab is they learn it basically. Here in the context of language, it means learnt knowledge. Then he says the first type, you get it by the senses, the five senses. Bil-hawas al-khams. The five senses give you that knowledge. Like we said, fire is hot. How do you know fire is hot? You feel it. You feel it. Yeah? And so on. So he says, bishammi, sham means smell. Bidhawqi, by tasting it. Or bilamsi, lamsi is to touch. Was-sam'i, by ear. Wal-ibsari, by eyes. The five senses. Then he says, ثم التالي. Then the second type of knowledge, ما كان موقوفا على الاستدلال. That which is, that which you need to prove. You won't know it except by proving it. And then the Shaykh explains this. So he says similar to what I said, yes? So the daruri knowledge is of five types. Is learnt from the five senses. And we could say there's an extra sense, which is the innate knowledge that you know. Certain things you know innately, which are not part of the five senses, but you just know them. Yes? Just like when the child is born, how does it know to suck? That's innate knowledge Allah has put in the child to know these things. And as we said, language again. Why do they say that knowledge of the senses is daruri? They say this is because everybody has this, and they don't need to think about this to know these things. Some scholars say that the senses, knowledge of the senses is not daruri. It's not daruri, it's not ittirari, because the senses can make a mistake. Yes? Senses can make a mistake. So the Shaykh says, فَقَدْ يَشُمَّ الْإِنسَانِ شَيْئًا الَّذِي لَهُ رَائِيَهَا وَإِذَا كَانَ a person, if he is not, doesn't have a flu, or his nose is not blocked, he can smell. Yes? But if his nose is blocked, and there is a scent, he can't smell it. So the senses can make mistakes. So then they say that this is not daruri knowledge. So they would put it into the second group, that you have to make, then because it can make a mistake, you have to put it into the second group. And also they say if your tongue, you don't have taste buds, and what's going to happen now? Now to know that something is good or bad, how are you going to know it? You'll have to prove it by some other means. Yes? And then the Shaykh brings an issue of something which is outside this. He says, they say that if somebody, what's the word? If somebody attacks somebody else and causes him to lose his taste buds, yes? The person who's the attacker has to pay diya just for the taste buds. Has to pay a diya on that, full diya, and for every sense. Normally the diya is for organs. That's for the organs. Yes? If a finger is broken, or if a hand is lost, or these things, normally the diyas are for that. But here, even for they say, even for because of this, the diya is paid for the senses as well, even though that's not anything to do with usool. So he says the true daruri knowledge is والصحيح أن العلم الضروري هو الذي لا يمكن دفعه, is that knowledge which you can't reject. Automatically you accept that knowledge. without having any proof. Anybody mentions that information to you, or that knowledge to you, you know it is true, even though you don't have any proof for it. Yes? If somebody said to you, there is a sun, yes, and it goes up every day and goes down every night, but you don't have any proof, but you know that it's true. Yes, you know that it's true, because you just know it's true. The sun doesn't need, as Ibn Taymiyyah said, the sun doesn't need a proof. In the same way, belief in Allah, you don't need a proof. It's something you automatically accept. It's called, this belief in Allah is ilmun dhururi, is necessary knowledge, because Allah has already put that in your fitrah to believe in Allah. When do people not believe in Allah? What has to happen to them for them not to believe in Allah Azza wa Jal? Yes, external influences. Especially nowadays, the atheism which is the fashion. Yes, atheism is a fashion now. So, and education is all around not believing in a God, trying to explain everything through some kind of materialistic way. Darwinian or neo-Darwinian, or I don't know what neo, whatever that means. But okay, do you know what neo means? Why do they say neo-Darwinian or neo this? Is it new? New Darwinian?
Neo means new. It's just like a new.
I didn't know there's new Darwinian.
It's
Okay.
like modern, basically, like neo-Nazi, neo-anything. It just means new.
Does it?
Yeah.
But how are these things new? There must be some kind of change in them.
The theory's altered a bit. That's why it's.
And so he says it's those things that you can't, when you hear them or you're told about them, you automatically accept them and you don't need a proof for them. You know the truth of them without having needing any proof. So he says from those things are those things that you see that are close to you. This is from the ilm dhururi, because you see it, you see the reality of it. So this is ilm dhururi. And he mentions the same thing. The belief in Allah Azza wa Jal is ilm dhururi. So if that's ilm dhururi, what's ilmun the other type? Ilmun al-ilm al-iktisab. Something that you can't accept it or reject it just as it's said to you. You need a proof behind it for you to accept it as truth. And they call it ilmun nadari. Ilmun nadari. Okay? Knowledge based upon not seeing. Knowledge based, nadar means to see. But here it means to theorize. But it's knowledge based upon proof. Nadari is ideology or theory. But here, ilmun nadari means knowledge based upon proof. Based upon proof. Like the whole of Usool Al-Fiqh is ilmun nadari. Yeah? Because you can't just know it straight, but somebody tells you, say, well, what are you on about? No. You have to learn it, and you have to learn the proofs behind it for you to understand it. So he says, وَعِلْمُ النَّظْرِ مَا يَحْتَاجُ فِي ثُبُوتِهِ إِلَى الْإِسْتِدْلَالِ. He says that this knowledge is what you need some kind of proof behind for you to accept it. Then he says, فَائِدَة, and gives us a point of benefit. 48. قلنا في تعريف الجهل أن الجهل المركب ذمه أشد من الجهل البسيط. Okay, he says that in the past lesson we mentioned that the compound knowledge is worse than simple compound knowledge. No, compound ignorance is worse than simple ignorance. Yes, we mentioned this. Yes. And then he goes through it again, what it is. So he says, he gives, again he mentions it, فَلَوْ أَنَّ الْعَالِمْ عَالِمْ أَدْرَكَ شَيْء عَلَى خِلَافٍ. If there's a scholar, and he understands something, but not in the correct way. So he has knowledge of an issue, but he's made a mistake in his knowledge. وَسُئِلَ فِي هَذَا الشَّيْء عَامِّي. And the same question is given to a person who's not a scholar, a normal person. And he says, لَا أعرف, I don't know. So the scholar is asked, and he gives an answer on the issue, but he gives the wrong answer, believing that he's correct. And the general person, one of us, is asked the same question, and we just reply, don't know. Okay? فَمَنْ هُوَ الْجَاهِلُ. So who is the ignorant one in this case?
The one saying,
Who is ignorant?
the one giving the answer.
The alim is ignorant, or who is the proper ignorant one?
Alim.
The proper ignorant one.
Alim is ignorant.
The one who just doesn't know, the ami, or the alim, who gives the wrong answer. And the Shaykh said, without doubt, the alim is more ignorant. Why? Because the default position of an alim is that he should know. Yes? And the default position on an ami is he doesn't know. So he's still stuck in his place. Yes? He hasn't moved. Whereas the alim has gone below where he should be. That's what the Shaykh says here. Then he says, but the questioner, what is upon the questioner? لا بد أن يقلد العالم حتى ولو أخطأ. The questioner, we had two people. We had the questioner, and we had one of us, and we had an alim. The questioner asked both of the people. Yes? Who is he supposed to ask though? He's supposed to ask the alim. Once he asks the alim, what is he supposed to do?
Follow it.
Trust his answer. Here the alim is wrong. However, the Shaykh says it's upon the person asking to follow the alim, even if the alim is wrong, as long as he doesn't know he's wrong. As long as he doesn't know he's wrong. Why? Because he's excused. He doesn't know. And the question doesn't know. So for example, you ask, I don't know, who should we ask? Ikram, who's one of your sheikhs that you like? Okay, excellent. You ask Shaykh Imran, yes? And you give him your question, and he gives you the wrong answer. But you believe he's an alim. That's the first problem. But he has knowledge, he has some knowledge, mashallah. But you ask him the question, he gives you an answer, it's upon you to follow him, if you believe he's an alim. Even though he may be wrong. Unless you ask somebody else who's an alim as well. And they give you a different answer. They give you a different answer.
You're confused.
No, you shouldn't be confused. Then what do you do? That happens a lot. You ask the alim, his answer, he gives you an answer, and then you ask another alim, just to make sure. And the other alim gives you a different answer. Now what do you do in that situation?
Follow the alim you trust.
Yeah, that's it. You follow the one that you believe is most trustworthy, most knowledgeable, most fearing of Allah.
Although he may be wrong.
Although you may still be wrong. Yeah. But what is upon you as an ami, if we are amis, is to go with what you trust and what you believe. And that's it. The sin of the mistake is upon who?
Upon the alim.
Upon the alim. That's what Shaykh says. If he did it upon ijtihad, then okay. If this is a matter where he can make ijtihad. Because not every matter you can make ijtihad in. Yes? In matters where there's a text, Allah has already decided the matter, then you can't make ijtihad in, as we will come to the end. There is no ijtihad ma'an nas. There's no making ijtihad when there's a text. Or if he doesn't know the text, he doesn't know there is a text, then he can make ijtihad. If he doesn't know there's a text on this issue, then he can make it, and he's done his best. Remember, in ijtihad, The scholar must do his best. It's not just, I think there's no text. He hasn't looked into the texts. Huh? He must go back and do his best. Then he can get one reward. But if he doesn't fulfill what he's supposed to do, then he's not going to get any reward for it. Because he didn't make ijtihad. Ijtihad means what? Striving,
yeah.
trying, and doing your best. If he just didn't do any of that and just gives you a ruling, whatever whispers come to him, he gives to you, then that's not ijtihad. He has to think and weigh up the proofs and everything, and then give you a ruling. Okay, you were going to ask something?
Yeah, discussing these in Pakistan and someone sending these messages, is the donkey meat haram?
Is donkey meat haram?
I said there's a clear text there on the Sahih Bukhari, the 3-4 hadiths I have seen it.
Yeah.
Person said on the day of Khaybar, was
Day of Khaybar, yes. They were cooking
What are you
it.
discussing? What does these scholars are discussing for?
Which there were scholars discussing.
Yeah, there's some scholars.
Well, that's an exotic dish in China.
But there's more exotic dishes in South Korea, I think, where they eat cats and dogs. And Egypt has decided to send its extra cats and dogs to Korea, South Korea, and make money out of its stray cats and dogs. This is what their president, mashallah, is doing now.
But just listen to this donkey meat. All these donkeys are disappearing from the poor African people who use the donkeys. And suddenly they find the donkeys are
The
disappearing.
purpose of the donkey is for you to carry things
Yeah,
upon.
and they get disappeared, and therefore they end up in China.
Now it's going to be quite straightforward for the Egyptian economy, selling the stray cats and dogs. And another interesting thing that I've learned is in Egypt the army has a new job, which is to sell fish. They've been put in fisheries to look after the fish, to breed the fish, and to sell the fish. This is what the army is doing.
That's better.
MashaAllah.
No, that's much better than
Instead of protecting the country from its enemies,
they sold it.
they're looking after fish. So things are good in Egypt, mashallah. But I haven't heard about donkeys. We know about horses. Horses, there's a difference of opinion whether horses are allowed to be eaten or not. The majority allow them, and the Hanafis don't allow it.
There's one hadith in same context. The Prophet forbade the meat of donkeys, but he allowed.
The meat of
Horses.
yes, that's the hadith that the majority based there. But Abu Hanifa's opinion was the horses are useful, especially in jihad. And if we start eating them, then we won't be able to make jihad. That's why he said you should. Well, he said tahrim, which is a bit strong. But that was his opinion, rahmatullah alayhi. Okay, where were we? Okay, then he gives us another fa'idah. He says you can have two types of daruri, according to what the poet or Al-Jawaini is saying. You can have daruriyatul hissiyya, the necessary knowledge which is based upon the senses, and intellectual necessary knowledge, like language and other things that you intellectually know, even though they're not, as I mentioned, even though they're not based on senses. And that's what he says here. And you can have a third type, which is ضروريات الشرعية. And what is what ضروريات الشرعية? What are those? What does it mean? They are those things that are known by necessity, where there can be no difference, and you have to know these things, and anybody who denies these things, what happens to them? Basically, these are things that everybody knows. Everybody has to know. Yes? Like you have to pray. Even that, oh well. we go away. That one's no longer ضروري. Okay, give me something ضروري that everybody knows. Zina is haram. Even that one? No? Not anymore? Drinking alcohol is haram. I think most Muslims know that.
Some people abrogated verses of the Quran, not knowing that they're abrogated and say that it might be enough.
Okay. What this means normally is if Muslims were living in a Muslim society, then they would know these things. They would know these things. Okay? Those people in that situation, if they deny these things, then they leave the fold of Islam. Okay? So in that situation where they are living amongst Muslims and be brought up amongst Muslims in a Muslim society, these are the ضروريات الشرعية. And that if they deny, then they are like Salah is obligatory, Zakah is obligatory, the 5 pillars, Zina is haram, alcohol is haram, gambling is haram, all these things that you know, generally everybody knows. Yes. Outside of the Muslim societies, then okay, there's going to be things that are, and new Muslims, they're not going to know everything that Muslims living in Muslim society would know. Okay? These are called ضروريات الشرعية. So that's why exactly that. That's what the Shaykh says. I didn't know the Shaykh says this, but that's exactly what he says. That if Muslims were living in a Muslim society, then they would know these things. Yeah, and Bilad al-Muslimin. These are the things that you don't have to go and ask about. Yes? Would anybody go in the Muslim world, in a Muslim country, and go and ask the Shaykh, I need a fatwa. Ya Shaykh, I need a fatwa. Is Salah obligatory? Nobody would do that. Or is zina halal? Yes? Maybe in where we're living, people would ask the question. I don't think they would ask, is Salah obligatory? Huh? I don't think they'll ask. They'll know it, they might not pray, but they'll know it. And most people, even if they're involved in haram, like drinking or whatever else, they know it's haram, but they'll still do it. But they'll know it's haram. They won't go and ask fatwa. Is this allowed or not allowed? Normally. Yes.
Haram, you know, Salah, for example, I grew up in Pakistan, it's a Muslim country, and we hear Adhan all the time. But I didn't know that you have to pray. If you don't pray, you go outside Islam.
Okay, that's a different issue. That you have to outside of Islam. That's a different issue.
Yeah.
But you knew that you had to pray.
Yeah.
Okay, that's what we're talking about. The knowing that you have to pray. It's obligatory to pray. As for the issue of outside of Islam, then that's a difference of opinion as well. Even though we know the correct opinion, Wallahu a'lam. But that's a difference of opinion. Yes.
But if someone knows, like, they know that they have to go, they know there's 5 daily salah, they know that they have to pray it. But what if they think it's completely okay if they don't? Like some people, I come across, they know you have to pray, but they think it's enough just to, they say, believe.
Then they have to be. It has to be proved to them that they must pray. Until there's no doubt.
They say Allah Ghafur Rahim.
Yes.
Some like that, but some just say
It's in the heart, yes, because of the murji, aqidah of the murji, that the actions of the limbs are not part of faith. And you can remain Muslim, and not even that, mu'min, on top of that, and muhsin probably as well. And still, you don't pray. As long as you have a deep belief in Allah in your heart. That's enough. Yeah, they know they have to pray, but they see it just as a sin. So they haven't left the fold of Islam from that angle, because they haven't denied the salah. But they may leave Islam when it's proven to them that not praying at all takes one outside of Islam. And we mentioned this I don't know which day we mentioned this. Friday. Were you here on Friday? Okay, so you've heard it on Friday. You were here on Friday? Everybody was here on Friday? So to you. That the correct opinion is if you leave the salah totally, you never pray at all, then a person leaves the fold of Islam. But if somebody prays occasionally, even if somebody prays the Eid prayers, so twice a year, okay, he's the Eid Muslim, but he's still kind of holding on, and he's off the cliff. I was saying he's like half off the cliff. That's what I was saying. Okay.
See, most of them, they think if you say La ilaha illallah,
That's it.
that will take it. So
Yeah, that's
all those things, all things are additional. Whether you do it or not, you still.
Praise the Hadith of Prophet Sallallahu
That's
Alaihi Wasallam.
so.
Yeah, that's
Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam said, La ilaha illallah wa ashhadu anna Muhammadan Rasulullah,
you will enter back.
Not by itself, no.
One
Not
of the
by
biggest-
itself, because you have to take all the hadith on that. خالصا من قلبه صادقا من قلبه. All of this meaning the heart, and if you're truthful in your heart, then that heart must show the belief in your limbs. You can't have something in your heart without it manifesting upon your limbs. Okay, so if you're sadiq, if you're truthful in your la ilaha illallah, then you must pray. You must. Otherwise there's no sidq, there's no truth. Because you say la ilaha illallah and you know Allah wants from you salah, and you refuse to pray.
Well, that's the link they don't have.
That's the link they don't have, because the murji'a came and cut that link.
Yeah,
There's no link. To the point, the extreme murji'a said, you don't even have to say la ilaha illallah with your tongue. As long as you have a belief in Allah in the heart, that's enough. And you never say la ilaha illallah with your tongue.
That's a Shia belief.
That's the belief of the Shaykh.
That's
Not
Shia
just
belief.
the Shia, that's the belief of the Shaykh. Even though they have a dispute amongst themselves whether they have, some of them say no, you must say the Shahada. Others say no, it's something extra. Okay, so because that's become the widespread belief, then you have to deal with these people gently. I know we want to deal with them harshly. Everyone wants to deal with them harshly. And you have to deal with them gently, because you'd rather keep them in the fold of Islam than throw them out. And giving them da'wah, and slowly, inshallah they'll start to pray. We remember the days we didn't pray.
Yeah.
And it's only through Allah's mercy, and He guided us to pray. Yes? Or He sent somebody to talk to us and call us and give da'wah to us, and then we agreed and we started to pray. Yes? They're in the boat that we were in. Yes? So we should be kind to them and gentle with them, and not just, you're going to Jahannam. No. Nobody knows who's going to Jahannam except who are mentioned in the text. Okay, so then he moves on to the next part of the carries on. وَالسَّمْعِ وَالْأَبْصَارِ ثُمَّ تَالِي مَا كَانَ مَوْقُوفًا عَلَى الْإِسْتِدْلَالِ. So he said that tali, the second one, is ilm al-nadhari, is knowledge that is based upon study or learning. Or al-ilm al-muktasab, again, what you learn. وَهُوَ يَحْتَاجُ إِلَى السِّدْلَالِ وَالنَّظَرِ. It needs for it, it's that knowledge that you need to learn it, and you need to think about it and use your intellect to understand it. Okay, that's that knowledge. وهذا أكثر المعلومات الشرعية, and that is the majority of Shari'i knowledge. Majority of the Shari'i knowledge is based upon is this type of knowledge that has to be learned. Yes, the knowledge of the Sharia that you have innately is only belief in Allah. Yes, if you were left alone, you would believe in Allah, but you wouldn't know how to worship Him, and you would want to worship Allah. Yes, but you wouldn't know how to worship Him, except by this knowledge of where you learn how to worship Allah through the Sharia. Okay. And that's why he says all of these issues, many of the issues are not Islamic knowledge, are not necessary knowledge, but are all issues which you need to learn, and you need to think about, and you need to prove this is halal, this is haram. And then he just repeats himself a few times. Then he moves on to the second. We'll move on to the second. He said, يقول المؤلف رحمه الله وحد الاستدلال قل ما يجتلب لنا دليلا مرشدا لما طلب. He says what is the purpose? No, not what's the purpose. In Usool Al-Fiqh, what do we do often, or most of the time? What are we doing? So far, everything that we're doing, what have we done? Defining. Okay. So we've given a term now we talked about knowledge. Yes, we defined knowledge. Then we defined ignorance. Yes, and then we defined necessary knowledge, and then we defined another learned knowledge. But we said to learn the knowledge, you need to do istidlal. You need to prove. Yes, you need to do proof. So now we need to define what is a proof. Okay, so that's why he says haddul istidlal. The definition of istidlal.
Had these definitions.
Yeah, had means to define something. The had of something. Like this is the had.
Yeah.
It distinguishes between two parts.
Yeah.
Had. So had al-istidlal قل ما يجتلب لنا دليلا. So the definition of istidlal is that which brings about a proof which guides us to that which we want. Okay? To make istidlal is not a proof itself. Istidlal is when you're trying to make a proof. Yes? What is proving? I don't know. Okay, proving. It's not the proof itself, it's your proving. Yeah, okay, well done, thank you. Proving. How do you prove? Is when you bring about any type of proof which will guide you to that which you want. You want the end result. So anything that can do that is called istidlal. But now we need to know what the dalil is. Yes? And so on. Every time we say a word, we'll have to define what is that word.
What does it mean when it says this helps you towards what you seek, or this guides you towards what you seek? Or this, like, the proof you're...
You want the Arabic word?
No, what does it... What does that actually
It shows you the way. It indicates to you the way. It guides you. What's the guide?
Okay, but... So proving,
It's a sign. It's like a sign telling you, go that way.
So proving is getting the proof for something which guides
It's
you.
bringing about a proof which will show you which way to go.
What does that mean, though?
To
Which way
seek,
go
to
where?
get to where you need to go to get to your end. What are you seeking?
It's like if something's halal or haram,
And so you're seeking if this thing is halal, for example. Yes?
and prove
You
is
bring a proof. You bring a proof. This proof will indicate to you whether it's halal or haram. Yes? From this proof, you will be guided. Like in the proof, it will say this thing is prohibited. Yes? And that's your proof. That proof will guide you to the end. What you wanted was halal or haram. Yes? So it'll guide you to, it'll be the signpost to haram, for example, or halal. Let's see what the Shaykh says. He says that we could say that dalil and istidlal are the same thing. The proof and the proving can be used interchangeably. But the proof and the proving, yes, could be correct or could be incorrect. Yes? You could use a proof, and that's how you're proving your point. Yes? But in that proof that you're using, there is no proof for the thing that you're trying to achieve. Yeah? The goal that you're going towards. Yes? You with me? I've used proof too many times. Yes? So the proof that you're proving is not an evidence, okay, for the issue that you're talking about. So you can either have a correct proof or you can have an incorrect proof. So he says that many times, many people use proofs, or ayah of the Quran or hadith of the Prophet ﷺ for an issue, but in that proof that they're using is no evidence for what they're talking about. Okay, many times this happens. So he says, let's give an example. يسأل سائل يقول لك إذا زدت في الصلاة ركعة. Okay. If somebody comes and he says, Salah is good, yes, we like, and the Sharia tells us to pray. Yes? And the more you pray, the more good it is. Yes? So why do we pray 4 rak'ah for Dhuhr? Why don't we pray 5? Yes? Why don't we pray 5? Because that's an extra part of the extra prayer. and the prayer is good. Okay? فهل أسجد بعد السلام أو قبل oh. So he's used a proof which is not a proof in this issue. Yes? What proof did he use? Praying more is good. But in this issue you can't use that because the salah, the raka'at of the salah are fixed by the Sharia. So he can't add or delete from the salah. But he used a proof which is in the Sharia. But here the proof is a good proof or a bad proof. It's an incorrect proof, yes? Invalid proof. Then he mentions something else. He says, if somebody asks you, if I increase in my prayer, meaning instead of praying 4 rak'ah, I pray 5 rak'ah, should I make sajda before the salah, before the salam, or after the salam? Okay? What do you do now to answer the person's question?
Is that intentional or not? First?
He did it unintentionally.
Oh, then they can do it before or after, doesn't matter.
How do you know that?
When he remembers.
How do you know that?
So he's asking for option.
Yeah, how do you know that he can do this or that? What do you have to do? Oh, you missed that bit, right? Somebody's made a mistake in the prayer. Okay? He's added a rak'ah to the prayer. Unintentionally. Okay? Now he wants to ask, okay, if this happens to me, do I make sajda to sahu before the salam or after the salam? Okay. For you to answer that question, what do you need to do?
Or you need to look at the proofs.
That's the first thing. You need to look at the proofs. Okay? So you need to see the sunnah, what is in the sunnah. So he says, تَبْحَثُ أَنْتَ فِي الْأَدِلَّةِ. So you look at the proofs. You're looking at the proofs. This is proving. This is istidlal. Yeah? So he's saying you can differentiate between, as we said, sometimes they use it interchangeably. Istidlal, proving, and proof. Sometimes you can differentiate between the two. You're looking into the proofs is the proving part. Yes? When you first bring together the proofs on the issue, and then you look at the wordings, and what the wordings mean, and what rulings are based upon those wordings. This is all part of proving. Yes? But what is the proof, the dalil itself? The hadiths. The ahadith are the proofs, and you're looking into them and trying to work out what they mean is the proving side of it. So sometimes they use them interchangeably. Al-istidlal is a dalil and dalil al-istidlal. Yes? Sometimes they differentiate between the two, and they mean by the dalil is the text. Yes? Or the texts that you have. Whereas the istidlal is you're bringing out the ruling or the meanings from the text. Yes? That's istidlal. Okay? Also, sometimes they mean your ruling itself that you give based upon the text, istidlal. Okay? So we had istidlal is you're pulling out the meaning. Yeah? Also, you're giving the ruling is also istidlal. Because you're using the meanings to give the ruling from the dalil. So he says, to summarize all of that, al-istidlal is, in reality, is for you, searching for the dalil, and then pulling out the ruling from that dalil. This is istidlal. Or implementing that dalil in the context of what you've been asked. It's called tatbiq al-waqi. Taking that proof and implementing it upon what happened or what the question is and giving a ruling. This is istidlal. Okay, we got it? Okay, somebody tell me what it is. Okay, what's dalil?
It's actual textual proof.
Is the textual proof, okay? is the proof. It might not be textual. It might not be textual, but it's the proof. Yeah, it normally is a text. Let's just leave it because ijma as well. Ijma as well. Sometimes qiyas. So okay, it's the proof. Okay, what else? What's istidlal? What's the istidlal part of it? Sometimes they use to mean the same. Remember, I said that at the beginning. Sometimes they use to mean the same. Dalil huwa al-istidlal. Okay? But when they differentiate it, what do they mean?
That means bringing out the dalil.
Bringing out the dalil?
Either finding or searching for the dalil itself, and then like deriving a ruling from it, and then acting upon it.
Deriving the ruling and implementing upon the upon what's going on, or what you've been asked about. This is all istidlal. But if you were to say it, summarize, he says after all of that, if I was to give you in few words, it's you seeking the proof. You seeking the proof. But there's a condition for you to be able to seek the proof. What's the condition for you to be able to seek the proof? That you have to have the tools to be able to derive the ruling from the proof. Without that, you can't make istidlal. Even if you have the text. That's the problem we have today. We have the text. We have many texts. Yes? And everybody thinks they have the tool to derive the ruling. So, it's in Bukhari. Yes? So what's in Bukhari? Yes, it's in Bukhari. But are there any other hadith on the same issue? I don't care. I've got it in Bukhari. Is that applicable, or is there an abrogating text for it? Okay? It's not sufficient for it to be in Bukhari. We're not belittling Bukhari. Yeah? We're not belittling Bukhari and anything like that. But for every issue, you need to bring together all of the texts. Yes? There may be a reason, for example, say there's a hadith in Bukhari, yeah? And a group of ulama don't accept the hadith in Bukhari. Do you think they're going to not accept the hadith of Bukhari because they just felt like, I don't like Bukhari? Huh? No. There's going to be a reason why they don't accept the text. Or they're not going to act upon. They accept it as it's authentic narration. But they're not going to act upon it. For example, we won't use the Hanafis. We'll use Imam Malik. There are texts which are authentic, which Imam Malik will say, لَيْسَ عَلَيْهِ الْعَمَلِ. We don't act according to this. Why did Imam Malik say that? Who can give me an answer? Why did Imam Malik? We're going to go through it at some point. But why did Imam Malik say, لَيْسَ عَلَيْهِ الْعَمَلِ? We don't act according to this sahih, without doubt narration. We don't act. For example, the 6 fasts of after Shawwal. He quotes it and says, لَيْسَ عَلَيْهِ الْعَمَلِ. We don't act according to it. Something after what?
Nasr.
Nasr.
Well, they may have been contradicting.
Maybe contradicted, not on this issue, but that's possible. What the madhab of Imam Malik is famous for is Amal Ahlul Medina, the actions of the people of Medina. That is a proof for Imam Malik. If there's a hadith, but the people of Medina at his time don't act according to this hadith, then he believes the hadith is abrogated by the actions of the people of Medina. And this is debatable. Yes, the majority don't agree with him. They only say if the action of the people of Medina comes to us by way of chain, say it's a hadith, then we'll accept it. Whereas if it's just what they're doing, then we won't accept it. Okay, that seems to be the correct opinion. Yeah, but for Imam Malik, it was anything that Ahl al-Medina do is a proof. So here he found that there's this hadith of Sahih Muslim, and I think he quotes in Muwatta as well. But the people of Medina don't fast the 6 fasts of Shawwal. Okay, people of Medina at his time don't fast the fast of Medina of 6 of Shawwal, 6 fasts of Shawwal. So he says, لَيْسَ عَلَيْهِ الْعَمَلِ. Even though it's reported that he used to fast. Even though it's reported he used to fast, but not openly. He wouldn't show that he's fasting. Okay, but the people of Medina don't do it. And his argument was that most of the Sahaba remained in Medina. Most of the knowledge remained in Medina. So why are the people of Medina not doing it? It must mean that it's abrogated. So he has a proof, okay, for not acting upon the hadith. That is authentic.
Many of Sahaba actually left.
That's a counter argument. Yes, that the knowledge spread outside of Medina.
Even Ibn Abbas left.
Went to Makkah and to Taif. Ibn Mas'ud went to Iraq.
So,
And Ibn Mas'ud was from the fuqaha of the Sahaba. That's where the Hanafis get all their fiqh from, Ibn Mas'ud. Okay? So, sometimes, just because we can't be literal, just take any hadith and start, we have to have the tools,
yeah.
the knowledge of how to understand these texts. Yes? For example, in a hadith it says, if somebody believes in Allah, and it's authentic narration, if somebody believes in Allah and His Messenger, then don't let your women go to Al-Hammam. What does Al-Hammam mean? Nowadays?
His bathroom.
The bathroom. So if you believe in Allah on the last day, don't let your women go to the bathroom. Where do they go then? Okay.
But that was different meaning then.
Yes, Hammam didn't mean Hammam that we mean. Hammam meant
Mixed
Mm.
ones. Oh,
they were not mixed.
Oh, no,
They were
sorry.
not mixed.
they-
The
groups.
what do they call them? I forgot what they call. They have them in Turkey still.
Yeah.
Bathhouse where you go and have a massage and sauna and all of that stuff.
And
Go and relax. In
area,
I don't know what they call it. In Turkey, they still call it hammams. Right. If you believe in Allah and the last hour, they don't let your women go to these places.
Yeah.
Because all sorts of nobody could enter. And anything could happen. Okay? So, if we apply the meaning of it now, then it's problematic. Unless we look back at what did the word mean in the time of the when it was said. Yes? This is all part of the Usool Al-Fiqh. Okay? So somebody will come and say, no, you can't do this, you can't do that, and really they haven't understood. For example, another example is, like I was saying, I was talking to Azim and we mentioned it, eating with your left hand or drinking with your left hand. What's the ruling?
You're not supposed to.
You should eat with your right hand.
You're not supposed to? Is it haram? Or is it makruh?
Mhm.
Is it haram or makruh?
It's makruh because shaitan uses it.
Shaitan uses it, it's makruh. That's a strange. Okay. The ruling is right. The proving, the istidlal seems to be a bit not right. Because normally you're told to oppose shaitan, which means it's obligatory to oppose shaitan.
So when I was mentioning that, my istidlal was haram because shaitan.
Yeah, you're using his istidlal, but your istidlal is right to a point. But your ruling is wrong. His ruling is right, but his istidlal is wrong. Okay? The ruling you gave is right. And that's the majority of the ulama say it's makruh. Okay? But they don't use that as proof. They say that these are adab. Adab. And what adab? Manners are etiquettes. In etiquettes, every order is for recommendation, and every prohibition is for makruh, for disliked. In adab, so eating, wearing, drinking, walking, all these things are for etiquettes, and every order in etiquette or manners is for recommendation, and every prohibition is for disliked, and not on their normal meaning. Normally, every obligation is for every order is for obligation, and every prohibition is for I'm getting it wrong. Every order is for obligation, and every prohibition is for haram. Yes, for tahrim. Yeah? That's no. But when it comes to manners and etiquettes, everything becomes lower. Yeah? This is a principle that basically is agreed upon amongst the scholars, except for the Zahiriyah. They're the only ones who go against it. The Zahiriyah say eating with your right hand is obligatory, and the one who doesn't eat with his right hand is sinful. Whereas the majority of ulama say no, he's not sinful, but he's left that which is best. Just like in the same hadith, kul bi yaminik, kul mimma yalik. Yes, eat with your right hand and eat that which is in front of you. If he ate at the other side, has he done anything wrong? No. He's gone against that which is best.
Yeah, the manners.
He's gone against that which is best. Yes. He saw that nice part of food over there, and the older people who don't deserve it are getting to it, and he can't get to it. So he goes over and takes it. You would think automatically that's a bit rude, yeah? That's rude. But because it's but the food, he's allowed to eat from anywhere in the food. Yes, he's been called to the food. He's allowed to eat from anywhere in the food. But what is best for him to do is eat that which is in front of him.
Yeah, that's a good manners.
That's from good manners. Yes. Omar seems to disagree. He's thinking about no.
I was just thinking he disobeyed the Prophet.
Prophet ﷺ is advising him here because this is manners.
How do you know that he's advising?
Because it's etiquettes. It's something that they've agreed upon. These are etiquette. These are mannerisms. He has the right to eat from wherever he wants and in whichever way he wants. But the best way is the way the Prophet ﷺ told him to do so. But the Zahiri say yes, it's obligatory to eat. It's obligatory to eat that only that which is in front of you, only that which is in front of you. And if you go away from what is in front of you, you are sinful. And it's obligatory to eat with your right hand. That one we can say okay. Yeah, to some extent we can understand that one, but you can only eat that which is in front of him. That's a bit difficult.
What does it mean? You have that bit, and what's in front of you now?
But no longer it's not in front of you. It's still far away from you. What's in front of you is nothing. Yes? Once you've eaten that which is in front of you, now what's in front of you is nothing. So what are you going to eat? Nothing. Unless they push the food to you, there's nothing in front of you. Yes? So we're left without eating. Or if that's a good way of doing it, if you're having a meal and somebody's there that you don't like, make sure that part where he's sitting, there's nothing in front of him. Or put all the things that you don't like there. You stay, eat there. Okay, I'm only joking. Okay, then he moves on to the next part. وَالظَّنُّ تَجْوِيزُ امْرِئٍ أمرين مرجحا لأحد الأمرين فالراجح المذكور ظنا يسمى والطرف المرجوح يسمى وهما والشك تحرير بلا رجحان لواحد حيث استوى الأمران. Okay, did we understand that? We have these three terms that we need to define which are connected to knowledge. The first is dhan. The second is wahm, and the third is shak. Okay, they're all types of knowledge. Okay, who knows what dhan is?
Surety. Something is sure.
It can be sure, it can be unsure.
الَّذِينَ يَظُنُّونَ أَنَّهُمْ مُلَاقُو.
Yeah, there in that verse, it means you're sure that you will meet Allah. But in other terms, it means you're unsure. It can mean you're sure and it can mean you're unsure. It's one of those words that can mean itself and its opposite. Where it's also in about the dhanni ithm, yes, conjecture, meaning you're talking without knowledge. Here in that verse that he quoted means surety, you have no doubt. In the verse you're quoting, there is suspicion, you're not sure. But you're spreading news without knowing the certainty of it. Okay? So it's one of those words that can mean it's himself and its opposite. Anybody know what wahm is then? Wahm. Wahm.
We use it as well.
Vam, yes. What does it mean?
Then it's just something coming to mind. It's not.
It's suspicion again.
It's not really solid. Something
So it's something unsolid, uncertain.
uncertain.
Okay. What about shak?
Same thing. It's doubt.
Okay. Okay. Now let's find out what they are in the Sharia. Okay. So dhan is something that could have more than one meaning. Something that can have more than one correct ruling for or opinion on, but one of them is more correct than the other. Okay, we have rajih, marjuh. So this dhan, it has two possibilities. You have two possibilities, or maybe more than two possibilities. Yes, for what this is, or the ruling on this issue. You have the rajih, which is the most correct, and then you have the marjuh, which is a possibility, but it seems incorrect. Yes, this is dhan, where you have two possibilities at least. One is more correct than the other. Okay, so the rajih is al-dhan. The rajih is al-dhan. The more correct is al-dhan, meaning you are more certain towards it. Yes, or you're more inclined towards it. And the marjuh, that which is more likely to be incorrect, is al-wahm. Al-wahm is وَالطَّرْفَ الْمَرْجُوهِ يُسَمَّى وَهْمًا. The marjuh part, that which is you believe to be incorrect or less likely to be true, is wahm. Yes. Then he says وَالشَّكُّ تَحْرِيرُ بِلَا رُجْحَانِ. Shak is when you have these two rajih and marjuh, you have something that has more than one option, and you have no idea which one is correct. No, that's doubt. You have no idea which one is correct. It could be this one, it could be that one. But in dhan, you know this one is more likely. And waham, this is less likely. But in shak, you have no idea. So he said, لِوَاحِدٍ حَيْثُ إِسْتَوَى. They are of the same level. Both of them are of the same level. You can't decide between them. This is shak. So the Shaykh mentions فَالظَّنُّ هُوَ التَّرْجِيحُ أَحَدِ الْأَمْرَيْنِ عَلَى الْآخَرِ. He says exactly what I said. He said that dhan is when you give precedence to one option over the other, or one meaning over the other, or one ruling over the other. And that is the rajih, that is the most correct, and that is called dhan. And the marjuh, that which you gave precedence, that which you said is not the correct meaning or the correct option or the correct ruling, is wahm. So dhan is the opposite of wahm, and wahm is the opposite of dhan. Whereas shak, you don't know the difference between the two. They are on the same level to you. There's no correct and less correct, more correct or less correct. There's nothing. It's just shak. So somebody can believe something, but not 100%. But say he believes it, that this is a true ruling, 80% that this is the correct answer. That would be what? That would be dhan. And somebody believes that this ruling is 20% correct. This is wahm. Wahm. And this one 50-50. Call a friend. 50-50. This is shak. You don't know. This again, remember, these are the terminologies of the usulis, of the usuli scholars, and not the terminologies of any other scholars. Each science has its own terminologies. Yes? Each science has its own terminology. As you're going to learn when we come to sunnah, and we define what is sunnah, what is sunnah, it won't be the same definition as the muhaddithin use, and it might not be the same as the fuqaha use. It's going to be the definition of the usuliyin. So each science has its own definitions. So when somebody's saying this, the sunnah is this, you need to ask them, what do you mean by sunnah? Whose definition are you using for sunnah? Muhaddithin, fuqaha, or the usuliyin? Whose definition are you using for sunnah? And they'll say, I thought there's only one definition for sunnah. Sunnah is action of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam.
It's not obligatory.
Action of the we're not talking, that's the fuqaha. That's the fuqaha, when they're saying it's not something not obligatory. Muhaddithin is action of the Prophet ﷺ, statement of the Prophet ﷺ, tacit approval of the Prophet ﷺ, and the, what do you call it, his mannerisms and how he looked. This is sunnah for the muhaddithin. And his what? Well, I mentioned his tacit approval. For the fuqaha, you just gave us what the fuqaha have to say. There's something which is not obligatory. Sunnah is something which is not obligatory, and it's equal to same as mustahab. Right? But the Maliki say sunnah is something that the Prophet ﷺ used to do always, near enough. Okay. Whereas mustahab is less than that. So they give us slight difference between them. What about the usulis? What do you think their definition of sunnah is? Remember, they're only looking at rulings. They only want to deal with rulings. So it's slightly different than muhaddithin. They'll say the sunnah is the Prophet ﷺ's statements, because we get rulings from them, his actions, because we get rulings from them, and tacit approvals, because we get rulings from them. As for his manners, we don't get any rulings from his manners, and how he looked, we don't get any rulings from that either. Yes. So this is sunnah. These three are sunnah for them, for the usulis. So you have to be sure what do they mean by when they say sunnah or any of these terms. So then the Shaykh says, as for the fuqaha, when they use the word shak, what do they mean by it? They mean in opposition to yaqeen, in opposition to certainty. Yes? And therefore, for them, shak is dhan, wahm, and shak. All three of them are included in the definition of the fuqaha for shak, because there's no certainty. Yes? Whereas the usulis differentiate between each one. Yes? Why do they differentiate between each one? Because we're ordered to worship Allah upon certainty and upon dhan. Yes? Most of fiqh, I don't know what fiqh is. Most of fiqh, I think there is a word in Arabic. Yeah. Most of fiqh is ikhtilaf. Yes? Most of fiqh, there's ikhtilaf. There's, these guys said this and these guys said that. Yes? So there's dhan. Yes? Dhan. Because there's a rajih and there's a marjuh. You're ordered to worship Allah with the rajih, with the dhan. Dhan al-rajih. Otherwise, most of it, everything would fall apart. Yes? Because there's very little yaqeen. There is yaqeen. There's 5 prayers. There's Sawm of Ramadan. There's zakah. There is yaqeen. But on the details, there is dhan. Yes? As soon as there's an ikhtilaf, a legitimate ikhtilaf, amongst the ulas, I'm getting things wrong today. Amongst the ulama, something's wrong today. Amongst the ulama, then it becomes dhan. And you're allowed to act upon, and we're ordered to worship Allah even using this dhan al-rajih. So we worship Allah with we're ordered to worship Allah and do the action upon yaqeen and upon dhan al-rajih. Act upon yaqeen, act upon dhan al-rajih. What we're not allowed to do is use wahm and shak. Wahm and shak we're not allowed to use. Because wahm means that you think what you're doing is wrong. Yeah? That's what it means. You're doing an action of worship where you believe what you're doing is wrong. That's wahm. Or shak. You have no idea whether what you're doing is correct or incorrect. You're not supposed to worship Allah in that way. You're supposed to then ask. Yes? Okay. So that's why he mentioned the fuqaha and what they believe is shak and what the usuliyin believe is shak. So he said وَلِهَذَا يَقُولُونَ مَنْ تَيَقَّنَ الطَّهَارَةِ وَشَكَّ فِي الْحَدَثِ هذه okay. So they say the one who believe, the principle we have. If you're certain that you are upon purity, right? then you don't, but then you have a doubt that you are not. You build upon certainty. Okay. Here وهذه كلمة شك. Here we have shak. So according to the fuqaha, this shak includes all the three forms. Yes. So for them, even if you have dhann al-rajih, yes, you believe 80%, you're still shak. So you can't build upon that. Okay? It's not the same as what the usulis would say. So he's saying here, if he has 80% that he believes he's upon wudu, then he can't build upon that. He has to build upon that he doesn't. If he has 20%, then of course. If he has no idea, then of course. Same. Yes? So he has to have total certainty. Total certainty. There should not be dhann, and there should not be wahm, and there should not be shak. And for that issue, on this principle, the usuli and the fuqaha differ. Okay? The usulis and the fuqaha are going to differ. The fuqaha are going to say what? Any doubt, no matter how, what percentage, yes, you can't build upon. It means you need to make wudu. Whereas the usulis are going to say, you can build upon dhann. You can build upon dhann. Yes? That's the difference of opinion. Then Shaykh says, ikhtalafu, because the Prophet, they had a difference of opinion. The Prophet ordered us to ordered a person to build upon that which he is certain upon. Meaning the thing that he's certain upon. فقال صلى الله عليه وسلم إذا شك أحدكم في صلاته فلم يدري صلى ثلاثا أو أربعا فليطرح الشك وليبني على ما استيقن. Hadith we've taken in Umdatul Ahkam, that if a person doubts in his prayer, whether he's prayed 3 or 4, then let him throw away the doubt and build upon that which he's certain. And he mentioned about the one who doubts about whether his wudu broke in the prayer or not. He said, لا ينصرف حتى يسمع صوتا أو يجد ريحا. Let him not go until he, what does he hear or smell? Until he hears something or smells something. Meaning he has yaqeen now. Okay? So he's saying, but according to the Suliyun, that the dhann is acceptable. Dhann is this rajih, is what you believe is correct, is acceptable to build upon. Like the shak in the salah, like the 3 or 4 rak'ah. 90% you think you prayed for. But there's this 10% that's niggling at you. Normally shaitan. Niggling at you. The 10% perhaps I didn't pray. This dhann al-rajih you can build upon. I'll say, yeah, okay, that's it. I leave that 10% of doubt, and I'll build upon the 90% that I'm sure that I've prayed for. Or the opposite could be true. Like you're 90% sure that you've prayed 3, and there's a 10% that you prayed 4. That's probably more close to what happens. So upon this dhann al-rajih you can build upon. Likewise, the one who doubts, he mentions the one who doubts in tawaf. How many tawafs has he made? The more busy the haram is, the more you doubt. Because you're getting pushed this way, pushed that way, and you don't know where you're going. So you're not always concentrating, how many have I done? Especially if you're by yourself. Because if you have other people with you, you can ask, which one are we in? Which number are we in? Yeah? When you're by yourself and you're getting pushed around everywhere, you lose track of what number you're in. Yes? Especially me, I lose track all the time. So, he said, same thing in tawaf and sa'i. You can build upon dhann al-rajih. And also the throwing of the stones. Have I thrown 5 or have I thrown 6? I don't know.
That's easy. You pick it only the one you throw.
Yeah,
You
sometimes,
finish it.
yeah, sometimes they fall out.
Well, somebody might have picked up more just in case. Just in case 1 or 2 don't go where they're supposed to go. And they hit a few people here and it happens, yeah. It happened to Umar radiallahu anhu. Somebody from behind threw a stone at him in the head. And blood came out. And the person said, Ya Umar, I'm sorry. And he didn't call him Amir al-Mu'mineen. And so Umar realized that he was going to die that year. Because the person removed his title from his name. So it was like an indication from Allah that that's it. Your time is up. And these are things, as I've mentioned it before, these are things we don't pay attention to, but they are like isharat from Allah when your time is coming close. When your time is coming close. So then he just recovers all of that again. Okay? So he says jahl is of 2 types. What are they? Simple ignorance,
And
which means I just don't know. And compound ignorance is
I don't know.
you
that
know
I
the
don't
thing incorrectly. You know the thing incorrectly. So you think you know, but you don't know. And we said that the compound ignorance is worse than the simple ignorance. Yes? And then he says knowledge also can be broken up into 2 types, which was knowledge which is daruri. What does it mean?
Essential.
Essential?
Necessity.
Necessary knowledge. Necessary. Knowledge that you need without proof. Or if somebody told you it, you wouldn't deny it. You would accept it straight away without having any proof for it. You just know it you just know it. It's that type of knowledge. Like, I don't know, we gave examples. Like, the sun is there, what? Milk is white. Eggs smell. They do, don't they? No? I didn't say bad smell or good smell. I said they smell. Yes? I find they smell bad. And knowledge that you don't need a proof for, you just know them. Yes? Then you have knowledge which is ilmun nadari. Not nazari, we don't like that one. We don't like that one. Nadari. Get the va. Which is, or ilm muktasab. There are 2 words for it. Nadari or muktasab. Muktasab meant you learn the knowledge, you gain the knowledge. And nadari means you learn it as well, you gain it. Or you need to prove it. Okay? So he mentioned all of this. And then he says, then we can break up that understanding of something can be broken up into 3 or 4 things. We can have yaqeen. Yes, when you're certain over something. You're certain your understanding is correct. Yes? Or dhan. What was dhan? Where it's more likely to be correct. You're more likely to be correct. What was waham? Less likely to be correct. And what was shak? You're just confused.
Yeah.
You're just confused. You have no idea. Most of the time we're just confused. Yeah? We have no idea. Illa man rahim Allah. As for the fuqaha, then they have a different opinion with regards to shak. For them, shak is all 3. Dhan and waham and shak are all shak for them. Okay, let's take a break there for a little while because we're going to move on to. Okay. Alhamdulillah wa salatu wa salam ala rasulillah wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa man wala wa ba'd. Then he carries on. He moves now to the definition of what is Usool Al-Fiqh. By way of its as a name for a science. Remember we spoke about what is the definition of fiqh and what is the definition of usul. Remember? Usul and then fiqh. What was the definition of usul?
Principles.
Yes.
Foundation.
Foundational
Yes,
principles.
Foundation principles. That's not what we said. It's asl is that which other things are built upon.
Oh,
Yes.
Fiqh is
Huh? So it's the foundation of something.
Yeah.
That's what asl and usul. So it's foundations. In this context, we're talking about foundational principles. Yes. Alright. What is fiqh?
application.
It's reasoning.
That's reasoning.
No, application
That's
of
in
usul.
the language, linguistically. We're talking about in the Sharia.
Jurisprudence.
Huh? There's a long definition.
The application of usul to derive rulings.
No. You haven't been looking out. You don't have any notes. I don't know what you've been looking. Try to look back.
Yeah.
Okay, we can accept that one. Exact rulings on specific actions of the mukallaf. Yes. Exact rulings
Exactly.
on specific issues of the actions of the mukallaf, the person. Yes. So
That's usul.
that is fiqh.
That's fiqh.
Fiqh.
Yes, yeah.
That's fiqh, not usul. We defined it at separate terms. Yes, that's the first way you define a compound term. Defined its two terms. Now he wants to define it as a one term. Okay. So what is usul al-fiqh as a term for a science? Okay. So he says, أما الأصول الفقه معنى بالنظر للفن في تعريفه فالمعتبر في ذلك طرق الفقه فقه أعني المجملة كالأمر أو كالنهي للمفصلة وكيف يستدل بالأصول والعالم الذي هو الأصولي. Quite a long definition. So I'm not going to translate those verses because they're difficult to translate firstly. And if I translate them, then you don't need what the Shaykh says. You generally understand what he says from those verses. So he says, the Shaykh explaining it, these verses, says that Usool Al-Fiqh, as a title or a name of a science, is knowledge of general principles or general ways to derive rulings and how to derive them, and how the one who derives and what are the characteristics of the one who derives them. Did we get that? We got lost, yes? Some people got it, some people got lost. Okay, so it's knowledge of the ways, of the general ways,
Then,
how to derive rulings,
generally.
وكيفية and how to derive them, okay, and the situation or the condition of the one who is deriving them. I think I changed it now.
Situation. You said characteristics.
Or the characteristics, it doesn't matter, characteristics or the situation or the state. Let's stick with characteristics. It's easier to understand. So basically it's two main parts. Yes? The first part is or three bits. The general principles. Yeah? So they're not specific principles. The general principles. Then how to use them to derive. Yes? And what are those things that the person who's going to do this needs to possess of characteristics? The whole of Usool Al-Fiqh talks about these three things. Okay? So the general principles, which are the adillah, which are the proofs. Yes? Then how to derive. How to derive, which is how to understand the language. The language used in the adillah. Yes? Like when, like for example, ala. What does ala mean? Not necessarily. It changes in the context.
Yeah, yeah.
Yes?
It could be against you or something.
Or ila.
Ila.
And when it says ila, does it mean, it generally means up to. But does it include it or not? For وَاغْسِلُوا أَيْدِيَكُمْ إِلَى الْمَرَافِقِ, to the elbows. Wash your arms to the elbows. Now, to, does it mean where it starts the elbow or including the elbow? Okay. Because what does ila mean? Okay. That's what the whole ikhtilaf is about. What does ila mean? وَامْسَهُ بِرُؤُوسِكُمْ. Yes. Wipe over your heads, or wipe your heads. B. What does B mean here? Does it mean part of your head? Yes. Does it mean part of your head, or does it mean the whole of your head with your hands stuck touching your hair? Which one? It means both of those. Linguistically, it can mean either of those. The Malikis and the Hanbali said it means the whole head. The B is here for putting your hands and touching your hair with it. Ilsaq, they call it Ilsaq. Whereas the Shafi'i said no, Ba'd, some of your head. Because B means some. And the Hanafis agreed. And the Hanafi said, but now we're going to differ. How much of your head? The Shafi'i said 3 hairs. 3 hairs. Because when you touch the head of a child, if you touch even 3 hairs of his, it's as if you've touched his head. Yes? So you've touched a little bit, which means the whole. The Hanafi said, no, we don't like that one. We'll go with the hadith. We won't go linguistically, we'll go with the hadith. The Prophet wiped over part of the nasi of his head and his imama. The nasiya is about 1/4 of the head. So we'll say 1/4. Okay? Because we have a hadith. Okay? It's all to do with B. What does B mean? And fi, and ila, and ala, and min. Because of these words, we have problems. Okay? So that's what, and this is called dilalatul alfaz. Dilalatul alfaz. And this is the most important part of Usool Al-Fiqh.
Where there is a clear hadith.
There's no such thing as clear hadith. There's no such thing. Huh?
Issues
Yes.
where there is clear hadith, then that means that hadith is going to be taken over.
That's why I said there is no clear
It's
hadith.
an interpretation.
That's why there's a problem.
We have no clear hadith because then you have to take apart the meaning of the words. Yes? Prophet ﷺ said things in Arabic. Now, depending on context, the words have different meanings. So if he uses any of this ila, ala, fi, then we have a problem. Because they have more than one meaning. And normally you can't have a sentence without, you can, but generally you don't, without, these are called huruf. In Arabic, you have ism, yes, which is a noun. Yes? You have fi'l, which is a doing word, yes, an action, and you have a harf. What is a harf? It's a harf. It has no meaning in itself, but it has meaning when connected to a ism or a fi'l. But in itself, it has no meaning. It only has meaning when connected to other. Okay. Whereas the ism has a meaning in and of itself. And the fi'l has a meaning in and of itself. This one, no. Okay. So it depends on what it's connected to. In English, we call it prepositions. Even in English, the prepositions in themselves shouldn't really. They're depending on what they go with. Yeah? Depending on what they go with, they get a meaning. Same thing in the Arabic. And all of the language is built up of these 3. Yes? And we have a problem here. Okay? That's the most important part of Usool Al-Fiqh. Ibn Taymiyyah said, unfortunately Ibn Taymiyyah said these words. And you'll know why it's unfortunate. He said, the one who is very strong in Arabic will understand Usool Al-Fiqh without any problems. I won't need most of it. The one who is very strong in the Arabic language will understand Usool Al-Fiqh very easily, and most of it we won't need. Alright? Because he understands the meanings of the words. So that's why you won't like what he says. eh? That's why some scholars say you shouldn't teach Usool Al-Fiqh in English or in any other language, because the most important part of it is Arabic. So how can you teach somebody something they can't use without knowing Arabic? And I was debating with the Shaykh about this. And in the end we agreed that you can teach them, but they can't apply any of it until they know Arabic. You can't apply it. What you become is, he said, you become cultured. The person who learns these things in another language becomes cultured, meaning he knows things. But he can't use this knowledge till he knows Arabic, or she knows Arabic. And then he said, well, it's useless, don't teach him. I said, well, I'm teaching anyway, so just be quiet. Okay, so that was, and then we have the last part of Usool Al-Fiqh, is which talking about the characteristics of the one who does this deriving. Who does the deriving? No, the fiqh doesn't do deriving. Fiqh does no deriving. Fiqh gives you rulings. It doesn't derive rules. It gives you the rulings. That's a faqih. Gets it from the usuli.
So does the Usuli derive?
But who is a... Well, he can derive rulings. Only if he's a mujtahid. Only if he's a mujtahid. The one who does ijtihad is who we are talking about. Because ijtihad is he's deriving the rulings. So the mujtahid is the one, we need to know the characteristics of the mujtahid. And what is needed to be a mujtahid. The whole purpose of Usool Al-Fiqh is for you to do ijtihad. That's the whole purpose of it. Which is to derive the rulings. Which we're not going to do. Yes, of course, there are mujtahids today. But there's different types of mujtahid. There's mujtahid al-mutlaq, who is an absolute mujtahid, who doesn't restrict himself to any madhab. Yes? So he can... We don't have that anymore. That passed out. Then we have mujtahid al-madhab. He does ijtihad within the confines of a madhab. We have those today. Mujtahid al-madhab. Even though sometimes he might go outside the madhab. But he's still confined to the usul of his madhab. Yes? He's confined to the usul of his madhab. And then we have mujtahid muqayyid, even less than that, where he doesn't do that much deriving except for new issues, and he sticks to the madhab, meaning what his imam said, and based upon that giving a ruling. So he doesn't do it from the adillah side. He does it from this issue has come about, the imam said something on an issue similar to it, so I do qiyas from within the madhab. This is mujtahid of the madhab. And they do takhrij. So based upon what the imam said, they make another ruling on something new. And so you have the different levels of ijtihad. Yes? You also have ijtihad jama'i now. Collective ijtihad. Where lots of scholars get together, like these majlis fiqh, the fiqh councils. Well, groups of ulama get together and they come up with rulings based upon the majority opinion. This is ijtihad jama'i. They have all these different things going on. So yes, mujtahid mutlaq, no, we don't have that anymore. That died out. Maybe it'll come again one day. We might get mujtahid mutlaq. As far as we know, we don't have it. Okay, then the Shaykh goes on to explain each part. But I've already explained it, so I won't explain it. We'll have a look. What did he say? He says that what is meant by general ways, the general ways. What he means is general principles, yes? For example, a general principle is every order is for obligation. And every prohibition is for haram. What's English? Every prohibition is for prohibition. Doesn't make sense. Every nahi is for prohibition. Okay, these are general principles. Yes, they have exceptions. We're not talking about any specific issue. Yeah, we're just giving it general principles. This is what is meant by general. Then he says general principles. So for us to know amr is for wujub, first we have to know what is an amr. Yes? What is a command? What types of commands are there? And then we know what do they mean? Or what do they necessitate? And again, what is a prohibition? Right? What types of prohibitions are there? And then what do each one of them necessitate? What does it mean when we say something is general? Okay? Anybody know when we say something is am? Huh?
Other exceptions. This is what it's like.
Okay, yes.
So in majority of situations,
When Allah says, Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu. This is am.
is that,
Why is it am? What makes it am?
yeah.
Oh, you who believe.
Is that general?
That's general. It's general from one angle and specific from another angle. Let's change it. Ya ayyuhan nas.
Yeah, that's,
Oh mankind.
you can't have general, more general than that.
Okay. Oh mankind. Okay. How is this general?
Everybody.
Includes everyone who fits insan, without specifying, restricting it to anyone amongst us. Yes? In one go. So it applies to everyone who falls within the definition in one go, without being specific to any individual person. Yes? That's am. Okay, what's khas then?
Specific.
Huh?
In a way,
Yeah, yeah, الذين آمنوا becomes خاص.
Ya ayyuhal ladhina amanu is specific to the khas of an insan. Yes? So it's exceptions or limiting. Exception or limiting it to... Normally now, when we're going to be in usul, we're going to be talking about exceptions. Khas is exceptions. For example, there is zakah in this, except this. So this except will be khas. Okay? And this am will now be amun makhsus. An am which has been specified. Or has an exception. Exception is better, yeah? As a translation, exception would be better. A general which has exceptions to it. Okay? The Hanafis don't like that. Well, you'll find out later on why they don't like that. They like it and then they don't like it. Okay. And we have khas, and then he says, and others like that. Then he says, Al-amru talabul fil ala wajh al-isti'la. So he says, Al-amr, the order, a command. What is a command? The definition of command. It's it's requesting. Now we're going to have problems in translation. It's requesting an action from a higher authority to someone or something lower. Al-isti'la. From also requesting an order from a higher authority. Let's just leave it at that. Yeah? Got it? So, when your father says to you, do this, okay, it falls under amr. Yes? Because it's requesting you to do an action, and he is a higher authority.
could it be order as well?
Yes, order.
Different between
Talab can be order, can be command, can be request. It can be all of these things.
basically pointing is saying you can
But if I say a command is a command, a command is an order. Okay, let's change it. A command is an order, then request. Talab can mean any of these. Request, order, command.
Amar is correct.
But amr is command or order. Yes. So they all have the similar meanings. Okay. But you're telling someone basically, someone is being told to do something from a higher authority. The authority can be anyone. In the Sharia, the authority is Allah and His Messenger. Don't forget His Messenger. He has authority. Okay, this is another point the Maulvi had a problem with. he said, Ibn Taymiyyah says that the Shari', the Prophet ﷺ is the Shari',
That's what he is.
is the legislator.
Yeah.
Is that incorrect?
No.
The Prophet ﷺ is the legislator.
Yeah, I don't know why he
Huh?
did this.
What's the name of the Maulvi?
I don't know what his name is.
Okay.
It's some, yeah, Ali Mirza. He had a problem with,
Yeah.
has a problem with Ibn Taymiyyah. He's just refuting Ibn Taymiyyah, but he doesn't understand that he's Jahl Murakkab. Murakkab. Up to the heavens. Murakkab. Because simple things he's getting wrong. Because the Prophet ﷺ is the Shari'. Huh? Of course, his Sharia is coming from Allah.
What did he say that it's like a
He said, A'udhu Billah. How can he make the Prophet ﷺ Shari'? Only Allah is the Shari'. This is shirk with Allah. Ibn Taymiyyah is committing shirk. What are you on about? You don't know simple things.
Yeah,
Simple things you don't know.
Yeah,
Simple things you don't know. Another issue he was talking about when Ibn Taymiyyah said something. It's not criticism really. He says Ibn Umar used to do certain things out of following the Prophet ﷺ in things where he didn't have to follow the Prophet ﷺ in. And so these things shouldn't be done that Ibn Umar did. For example, going under a tree, even though he wasn't as tall as the Prophet ﷺ, and putting his head down. Yes? Or finding the places where the Prophet ﷺ would put his feet when he was walking, and putting his feet in those exact places. These kind of things Ibn Umar used to do. Radiyallahu anh. None of the other companions did these things, but he would do it. So Ibn Taymiyyah was arguing that you shouldn't follow a companion in these things which are not recommended by the Prophet ﷺ to do. These are just normal actions the Prophet ﷺ does. Or Ibn Umar would go to a certain place where the Prophet ﷺ had a bath and go and have a bath there. Things like this. Eh? He said, oh, look at Ibn Taymiyyah saying Ibn Umar commits bid'ah. Where did you get that from? So anyway, so the Prophet ﷺ, Allah and His Messenger. Okay? They are the Shari'. We don't say the command is Aqimus Salah. In Usool, the command is not Aqimus Salah. The command is the definition we gave. The definition we gave is the command. Yes? Aqimus Salah is a specific command. Yes? It's a specific command, and we're talking in terms of general. Yes? In general, a command is what we've just mentioned. Yes? That encompasses every command in the Sharia and outside the Sharia. As we mentioned, if your father says something to you, orders you to do an action, and he's ordering and he's in authority, then this is a command. Yes? So it falls in within the definition. So every command falls in this definition, whether it's in the Sharia or outside the Sharia. And we said we're not talking about tafsir, we're not talking about specific things. This is a specific order. Aqimu as-salah wa atu az-zakah. These are specific orders. So this is not an order. We can use it as an example of an order. Yes? We can say an example of an order is the statement of Allah, Aqimu as-salah wa atu az-zakah. These are examples of orders. An example of the order, another example of order is Ya ayyuha alladhina amanu kutiba alaykum as-siyam. So kutiba alaykum in the Sharia is an order. Kutiba alaykum, because orders can have more than one way of ordering. There's more than one way of ordering. But again, these are examples of orders, and not orders in them, not an order with regards to Usool Al-Fiqh. Alright, we'll stop there, inshallah. We carry on next week. وصلى الله على نبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم